Welcome back to the Romans International YouTube channel. Today we are doing a video on the AMG GT Black Series. It's the second one we've had in stock at Romans, and today I'm going to discuss some of the reasons why I think this is such a special car. I'll discuss the market on them and how it compares to some of its rivals and also the previous Black Series models. Okay, so firstly I'll show you around the exterior of this absolute beast. So you'll notice firstly the colour, it's got that sort of satin effect. It's actually satin paint protection film which is laid over the car, obviously not only just to protect the bodywork from stone chips but also to give it that sort of matte look, which I think looks amazing. So instantly you're drawn towards these huge scoops in the bonnet. You'll see they're gloss carbon fibre, which gives a nice contrast to the matte effect of the rest of the bodywork. And you've also got these louvres which are actually sculpted into the wing. That's obviously there to sort of extract heat from the car, but again just looks so aggressive. One thing to notice is down here on the front splitter, it's got an actually manually adjustable front splitter. So this section here actually comes out. You'll notice the little wires, so that actually screws in. But for road use, you probably want to retract that back underneath. But for track use, obviously get a little bit more downforce when it's out. So onto the side of the car. So one of the characteristics of all the Black Series is that they're a little bit wider. They've got flared wheel arches, just look more aggressive. And that's also the case here. You'll see these sort of air intakes accentuating the width of the car, and then carbon side sills as you would expect. Also got carbon mirrors, carbon roof, all helping lighten the car. So with the wheels, these are 19-inch on the front and 20-inch on the back, forged alloys, and you get carbon ceramic brakes as standard. They're actually bigger brakes than on the AMG GTR Pro, which is the sort of car one down from this. And it's one of the things the journalists absolutely rave about is how good the brakes are on this car. Cup 2 Michelin tyres. You'll notice the sort of almost little velvet ring around it, and if you look really closely, it's got a little symbol, a logo of the car with the little AMG stripes. Quite a cool little touch. And then we come round to the rear and we're face to face with this massive rear wing, which whilst verging on the ridiculous, it's obviously very functional, and one of the reasons this car is so good on track because it contributes massively to the downforce and the aerodynamics of this car. Let's remember, on release this car became the fastest ever car around the Nürburgring and is still actually the fastest production car around the ring. So this wing is obviously in two parts. You can see both sections all in carbon fibre. It's also manually adjustable, so you can sort of tweak it as you like to just get the settings you want. This little section here is actually completely adaptive. It flaps open and closes, so if you're braking, it comes up and acts like an air brake. There's also a button inside you can do to sort of raise it and lower it. One of the signature looks of the Black Series is the tailgate, having that in gloss black, which you'll see, you might see as contrast with the satin here, but obviously contrast with any of the colours that you choose to go with. Down below you see this huge, monstrous diffuser, again all in carbon fibre, and you'll notice the exhausts are completely different to the regular GTR. You get the twin exhausts either side. But look, all in all, this car is obviously a wild looking car. It's very extreme. Might not be to everyone's taste, but let's face it, you're never going to mistake this car for any other model. It really is just an incredible piece of kit. Just before we go on to the interior, I may as well just mention some of the other colours you can get on this car. I think there were 10 colours originally. You may have seen the launch colour, which was a magma beam orange. If you like bright colours, it looks amazing. It's also exclusive to the Black Series, so quite a few people went for that. There are the sort of more regular Mercedes colors, the grays, the silvers, the whites. They do the matte blue color you may have seen before, and they also do the hell green Magno, which launched the original AMG GTR. I'm actually yet to see one in that color. Hopefully someone out there has spec'd one. But for me personally, there's something about getting a Black Series in black. It sort of feels like it's meant to be. And besides, just look at this thing. There's a good reason why everyone refers to this car as the Batmobile. Okay, so on to the interior, and anyone who's driven the regular AMG GTR or the GTR Pro will be pretty familiar with the layout in here. There are a few changes though with the Black Series. So as standard, you get the bucket seats. They're ultra lightweight, made of carbon fiber. They're surprisingly comfortable as well. But look, this isn't a car you're going to be doing lots of long journeys in, I wouldn't have thought. So although you can spec more of the comfort seat, which are the AMG performance seats, which some people might have gone for me, I think this is a real track car, track focused car, and the bucket seats are what the best option is. As being a race car, you're going to get a lot of Alcantara throughout, and whilst you do get Alcantara on the regular GTR, you get it everywhere on the Black Series. So you have it on the seats, have it all on the door panels, you get it lower and upper dashboard, and you also get it on the steering wheel to give you that extra bit of grip. What's I think really nice on this Black Series is the orange stitching and detailing throughout. So you get that orange dual stripe down the center of the seat and the stitching contrasting throughout the interior. If you don't like the orange, you could have spec'd it in silver as well. That was the only other option. But for me, I think it feels nice and high-end, but very, very track focused. So into the driver's seat, and of course it feels incredibly performance orientated in here, but being Mercedes, they couldn't help but make it feel a little bit luxurious as well. You've got technology surrounding you everywhere. You've got your Burmester surround sound system. You've got all your infotainment up here. And without going into sort of too many details, one thing I will pick out was the Track Pace app. So if you're doing track days in this car, there's loads of fun settings to play around with. So you have your drag race mode where you can measure your acceleration. You've got all the usual telemetry where you can do your lap times. I mean, it's such a fun car if you're going to take it on regular track days. And then finally, the one constant that's remained from the GTR to the GTR Pro and to the Black Series is this yellow toggle for the traction control, which you can dial it up and dial it down just to measure how much traction you actually want. Just a couple more things to mention on the interior. Once you lift up the carbon fiber tailgate, look at all that beautiful carbon, and you'll see very instantly the titanium roll cage, which is part of the track pack that comes as standard on UK cars. You can delete it. It also gives you the 4-point harnesses and the fire extinguisher in the front. In the US, I believe the track pack is not available, so cars out there will not have it, but obviously a good thing if you're going to use it on track. Also, you can see it's actually quite a good boot space back here. These kind of cars, you don't often get much boot space, but here you could probably lay a full suitcase back here, certainly a couple of weekend bags. And just lastly, something that is unique to the GT Black Series are these two metal struts that sit here in the boot. They're basically there for support. Because the rear wing is so big, creating so much downforce on the tailgate, they have to have those to just support the tailgate so it doesn't bend. So it just sits there and helps support that. Okay, so let's just discuss the performance. Mercedes built this to be the absolute pinnacle of track performance, and it hasn't disappointed. The big headline stat on the Black Series is the fact it produces 720 brake horsepower. That is 140 brake horsepower more than the GTR Pro, and that's a massive difference. So how did they do this? One of the big changes on the engine, and it's actually one of the, I think, the first time that a Black Series has had a totally different engine to what's on the model that it was based on, is because this car, although it is a 4-litre V8, it has a flat plane crank instead of a cross plane crank. Now, without getting too technical, basically what it means is on the engine, the pins have a lighter rotating mass, so they can spin a lot faster, generating more power, more revs, and more response. Then you combine that with the fact it's got bigger turbochargers, increased air cooling, that all contributes to this massive power increase. And it's not just extra power, so Mercedes have gone to extreme lengths to make the car lighter as well, mainly through extensive use of carbon fiber. Almost the whole car is in carbon. You can see it here on the bonnet, exposed carbon fiber here underneath, but I believe the wings are made of carbon fiber. Obviously the roof is an exposed carbon, the rear wing, the tailgate, I mean the carbon is absolutely everywhere. And then you even get a little bit of carbon here on the engine bay, where you get the AMG plaque with the name of the guy that built the engine. We have Andreas, won't try and pronounce that surname, but thank you, Andreas. So as well as carbon fiber, they've used lighter glass for the windscreen, for the windows. The door cards are also lighter. I mean, Mercedes have done everything they can, not only to increase the power, just to make it as light as possible. The downsides of all of this is they've lost a little bit of the noise, and that's mainly due to the engine, the flat plane crank. You won't quite get that burble and roar of the sort of regular GTR even. And it's a sort of cleaner noise, and in truth a little bit quieter. Let's give it a little listen. So it definitely sounds a little bit better when you're at higher speeds, but might be worth looking into an aftermarket exhaust if you want a bit more noise. So just on the gearbox, so it actually uses the same 7-speed dual clutch gearbox from the regular AMG GTR. It's just got much shorter gear ratios, so you can really move through the gears quicker. As far as the suspension goes, so it has adaptive dampers, which means you can change the settings. It does have a comfort setting, but it's still a fairly firm and bumpy ride. But look, this is not a car you're going to want to use as a daily. That is not why you buy this car. Why you do buy this car is for the track performance. The top speed of it is 202 miles an hour. Does 0 to 62 miles an hour in 3.2 seconds. So yes, whilst there are quicker cars and there are louder cars, personally, I don't think at this price point there's many cars that are as much of an event as driving it as this is. Okay, so let's discuss some prices and where this car sits in the market. So the original list price of the car was £335,000. There weren't any really cost options to speak of other than the paint. But there was a very strict selection process when deciding who was going to get allocated a car. I mean, part of the Black Series appeal throughout all sort of 5 previous models is just how rare they are. Obviously Mercedes wanted to keep this the case with the GT. So the first people on the list were anyone that had ordered the Mercedes hypercar, the AMG Project 1. And actually because that car got so delayed, and also partly because they're spending £2 million on that car, Mercedes tried to keep the Project 1 owners happy by giving them a special Black Series which featured a custom paint job, and they called it the P1 edition. But even if you didn't order a Project 1, you still had to be a sort of VVIP Mercedes customer to be considered for the Black Series. And obviously the order books have now closed a long time ago, so your only way of getting one now is on the second-hand market, where of course they're selling for big premiums over list. So the dealers' sort of asking prices in the UK seem to be set around the sort of £100,000 over list. I do know some that are sold for even more than that. And whilst that might sound a lot to some people, you know, in our market it's pretty normal for limited production cars we're selling for those kind of numbers. You know, you only have to look at the Porsche 992 GT3, which is selling for similar premiums, let alone the exclusive RS models, which are actually much closer competitors to the Black Series. But despite the exclusivity of this car, Mercedes actually, they've never made a specific number of Black Series for any of the models they've done in the past. Whilst I don't know exactly why that is, they've certainly managed to keep the numbers down, especially in right-hand drive. You know, there's always way more demand than supply for any Black Series model. And I think that should be the case, really, to sort of keep these cars special, both now and in the future. I believe there was only ever about 15 SLS Black Series in the UK, which was the last Black Series before this. And whilst I think there'll be a few more of these, I'd be very surprised if there were more than sort of 25, 30. I know personally some of the UK cars have already been exported to the Far East. So we're talking about a very finite number of cars which will actually remain in the UK. I believe the USA had a much bigger allocation. I'm sure the likes of Germany and other European countries will get their fair share as they're all left-hand drive. But as far as right-hand drive cars go like this, I personally believe they'll always end up holding a premium over and above the left-hand drive cars. I guess the other important thing about the Black Series is they only come about every so often. You know, they're reserved for the most special and deserving cars. And I think Mercedes have now started to realize the historical importance of them. They seem to be increasing the model life cycles a bit, kind of like how Ferrari do with their Halo cars. I mean, the SLS came out in 2013, the Black Series. This came out in 2021, so it's an 8-year gap. Mercedes really took their time to get this absolutely right. You know, they wanted to make a huge statement with it. So people are asking me, will this be a good investment in the future? Obviously, it's been a good investment for the first owners. So don't have a crystal ball, but the market is very strong at the moment. The overall narrative is pretty good. You know, electrification's coming in. The next generation of Black Series is probably going to be some kind of hybrid, and that should really be a good thing for all the previous Black Series, the values. We've seen the C63 Black, the CLK Black jump hugely in value over the last couple of years. The SLS Black Series, people are asking best part of £700,000 for. And whilst the GT will probably never be as valuable as the SLS, mainly because of the gull-wing doors and naturally aspirated engine, it's still a very rare car. It's got incredible track credentials, and with the wild styling, I personally believe this is going to be a real future classic and collectible. You know, Porsche and Ferrari often get talked about like they're in a different bracket to the rest of the manufacturers. But if anyone follows classic car auction prices, you probably heard recently the world record for a car sold at auction was just broken. No, it wasn't a Ferrari, it wasn't a Porsche, it was a Mercedes. It sold for 135 million euros. So don't ever write off Mercedes as a brand of historical significance. You know, special cars should be considered every bit as collectible as the likes of the Ferraris and the Porsches. You know, the obvious rival to this car is probably the 991 GT2 RS. Fairly similar price points today, and whilst I absolutely love that car too, I think a lot of people would probably agree the Mercedes have created the better car. It was only a tuned up GT2 RS with a Manthey racing kit that could beat the Black Series around the Nürburgring, and that can't really be considered a production series car. Other models, I guess some people might consider Aventador SVJ, maybe the Pista Pilotti, perhaps even the McLaren Senna, but none of them can claim to be the king of the ring, and personally I don't think any of them look as good as this. So there it is, the AMG GT Black Series, the ultimate head turner, the ultimate track weapon. As of today, this car is actually still available. It is on our website. We'll put a link to it below. But I hope you've enjoyed that video, and we'll see you again next time.